Good day, friends. New project day today, and we have something pretty nice in. Again, as much a friend as a client, well, probably more a friend than a client. And this is a friend of mine from church. I did refret one of his guitars earlier this year, and he's bought me another one in just for a setup. Beautiful looking thing, and it's a Takamine, made in Korea model. Beautiful looking guitar, nice shade of red. You've got a Takamine EQ system and pickup on there. Takamine or Takamine, whatever. Tuners, it's a G series. I looked at these myself in the past. Model number EG560C. A Cayman musical product, Bloomfield, CT. Wherever that is, Connecticut maybe. Made in Korea. Cayman used to own Hamer guitars. Hamer guitars being my favourite guitars, or ever since I was introduced to Hamer guitars in the early 1980s, they've always been my favourite guitars. I've been fortunate enough to own a couple of them. I don't anymore. Do I regret selling them? No, I don't really regret anything. But I wish I still had them, if you know what I mean. Fantastic guitars. So this one, Takamine G series, like I say, EG560C. It's coming for a setup. I've already ascertained that there are a couple of problems with this guitar, one being the nut slots are very deep, so I'm going to recut the nut. We're going to bring the nut down quite a bit. The slots are actually, they might be deep, but it doesn't mean they're low enough. They still need lowering a little. Some of the strings are a little bit high over the first fret, namely being the top E and bottom E strings, so I'm going to recut the slots. There are 4 high frets on this, which I am going to have to level, which I will do. Once they're leveled, they're going to be recrowned, and once they're recrowned, all of them are going to be polished. I'm also going to clean up the fingerboard, get rid of any grime that's on there. We're going to nourish it with some mineral oil, commonly known as lemon oil, though it is not lemon oil, it's mineral oil formulated for guitar fingerboards with a hint of lemon scent in there just to make it smell nice, and it does smell nice. And the stuff I go for is the stuff I buy. Well, I used to buy this Kaiser, because this comes in a spray form. Fantastic. And what I do is I tend to buy the oil in bulk, and I just top up and use the spray canister. It's a lot cheaper that way. It's going to last for yonks. Something else on the guitar, the action seems pretty high. It's not super high. It's not high enough to warrant me taking anything down or removing any material from the saddles, which I'm not going to do. It's a split 4-2 saddle. I had one of these recently. I actually refretted a Takamine not too long ago. There's not enough material on that saddle to shave any from the bottom because of the break angle over the strings going to the string holders, string pins, whatever you call them, I forget what you call them. If I needed to lower the action on that, I would have to remove material from the top of the bridge itself. And it's too much work, and it's not really. That's a pretty decent action for an acoustic guitar, probably about 2.5mm above the 12th fret, so I ain't going to be worried. The neck I've straightened beforehand by altering the truss rod. It's a 5mm hexagonal truss rod key Allen wrench. It goes in here, in there. Again, the truss rod is virtually at the end of its travel, but the neck is straight with the strings on, so it gives us enough travel there. So I'm going to give this a straight setup. It is having the intensive setup. Now, pricing for an acoustic guitar is different to an electric guitar. Electric guitar pricings are player setup is 50, intensive setup is 75. On an acoustic or a bass, a player setup is 40 and an intensive setup is 60. So we'll be having a 60 quid setup. There is always a reduction for the church, so he will save there. Strings I'm going to put on it are a set of Dioderios. I have some over here which were supplied by the owner. Dioderio 1152s. Pretty regular gauge, quite light for an acoustic. I actually really like light strings on an acoustic. Phosphor bronze, 80% phosphor bronze, see, 80-20 balance on that. One bright balanced tone, it says. You're not going to go wrong with Dioderios, are you? So, without further ado, I'm going to crack on. I can't see any other problems. There doesn't appear to be any unnecessary belly bulge or any warps in the body top. I would imagine this is a solid spruce top. I would also imagine they are laminated back and sides, but don't quote me on that. Nice pieces of wood. I don't know what the bottom wood is. You tell me. It looks like it could be mahogany because it looks pretty similar to the neck itself, and I would imagine the neck is mahogany. Rosewood fingerboard, lovely piece of rosewood. It is stained. You can tell it's stained because of a light indentations at this end where it's worn a little. Thought there were indentations at first, but they're not, so I don't need to do any filling, so there's no extra work on there. Tuners work well. Strings are dirty, they do need changing. So without further ado, I'm going to crack on, get the setup done, and we can get this one moved on today. And a couple of hours working this one, which will be quite nice for me. And I've got some other things to do later this afternoon. I will come back with an update shortly, so stay tuned. So I've straightened the neck by altering the truss rod. Still got the truss rod Allen key in there. I've gone across with the fret rocker. I've determined that I'll tell you how many there is, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frets need attention. So I will prove that by going across with the fret rocker. Same as always, 4 different lengths. We do 3 frets at a time. If we get a rock anywhere, which we don't there, it determines the one in the middle is high. So here we go. High spot there. The rest of them right up until we get to this one are fine. Go here. Next one's fine. Next one. That's 3, 4, fine, fine. In fact, right up to here. 4, 5, fine here, 6, and this one's 7. So got 7 frets need leveling. I will just level with a flat file. I will tape up these areas. In fact, I'll do this right here, right now. Just to stop me digging into the guitar. This side first. Because I'm going to be using a file, I don't want to be digging anything into the guitar body itself. So we'll just tape up, keep everything neat and clean, don't be pranging anything. Just for when I do the frets later. And that will stop me digging into anything on the guitar. Flat file, just file across. I'll end up, we're going to, obviously the frets are going to flatten a little. We're going to put that crown back in. Once that crown's back in, I will lemon oil with fingerboard, get it all cleaned up, and I will then polish all of the frets. I'm not going to film everything. I've got too much work on to be filming every single little thing. I just like to have a record of where I'm at and what I'm doing on everyone's guitar, so I have a record of everyone's guitar that comes in. So I'm going to crack on with this. I'll come back with an update later on, show you how we got on. And here we are, a while later, with the frets all levelled, recrowned and polished. I've also oiled the fingerboard. You'll agree, it looks really, really very nice. I've decided not to touch the nut. That is how the nut came. The slots are fine. They may need, the edge ones might need cutting a little bit deeper, but I'm not going to file it. I'm going to leave it as it is because it looks great. Look at that wood now. It's standing. I have a grain standing out now. It's been oiled. Looks fantastic. The body itself is good. Removed the saddles, cleaned everything up. I've cleaned the top of the guitar. I've still got to do the back. Give that a bit of a polish. I'm going to tighten up all of the tuners, make sure that all the screws in there are tight, and at the end, and the bolts or nuts and bolts on the top, or nuts are there on the top there, are all tight enough. It looks really, really good. Like I say, we're going to stick some Diodarios on there. So all that remains for me to really do now is, like I say, tighten up all these things, tighten up the tuners, tighten up the strap pins, or strap pin. There's only one. Maybe it'd be nice if you had one in there. I personally would put one in there myself, but no one's mentioned anything like that. I'll give the guitar a clean, we'll get some new strings on there, and that will be that. So I will come back, give you a final update, and show you the guitar once it is finished. So, after getting the strings on the guitar and playing it a little while, I noticed we're still going out of tune a little bit when we were recording and playing notes. And the reason for that would have been that these slots weren't cut deep enough into the nut, and that meant the action above the first fret was too high. So I went to go feeler gauge, as you do, and this is how I like to measure from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. And on these 3 strings, I like to go 0.3 millimeters, or a third of a millimeter, or thereabouts. On the first 4 actually 0.3. On this one, these two, 0.4 millimeters. So let's pick a 0.4, and I like it just to start ringing the note. And that's perfect. Same with this one. And on the next one. Just ringing the note. Then we're going to drop down to 0.3. A little bit lower. You could even go to 0.2 on these top 3 strings, especially on an electric, but I like to go 0.3 millimeters on an acoustic. And now it means when we're fingering an F chord, or a chord in the F shape, we're not going to be F sharp, so like sharp. It does happen if your nut slots aren't cut deep enough. You are going to get a sharper note on the F than you normally would do, and probably on the F sharp. Once you get to the G, it sort of balances itself out. 0.3 millimeters, and we'll go from this side, high E, B string, that's actually still a bit high, could take these a little bit lower. I think we're going to be okay where we are because I've just checked it by eye and it looks fine. So we're between about 0.33 on these two, 0.35 on there, 0.4 on these two. So let's have a look, see if we're in tune. And that's pretty good. So I'm going to change the camera angle, turn the guitar around, and we'll have a good look at it. And here we are with the guitar all finished. I think you'll agree that that looks really pretty good. Looks like new actually. It's all been cleaned up. We've leveled some frets, we've given it a complete setup, we've cut the slots deeper in the nut, we've tightened all the tuners. There's one strap pin there. Which is also the input jack. No strap pin there, it'd be nice to see one there. But the guitar looks and feels great. Action, it's bang on, but I wouldn't like to go any higher than that. So if we have any problems with that later, I'd be looking at probably shaving a bit off the top of the bridge, and we could take some material from the bottom of the saddles. Sound wise, it sounds like an electroacoustic. I actually don't like the sound of electroacoustics not plugged in. They don't quite sound quite right to me. It's like why I like to get a proper acoustic guitar. Like I have dreadnoughts and I put my own pickups in there. I think they sound a little bit weirder, but they sound fine for an amplifier. Very well made guitar. I would say it's a mid-range series, mid-range to pro series guitar. I think if you're a gigging pro, you would want something a little better than this. Probably go for something like a Taylor or a Martin myself. But that said, nothing wrong with this guitar at all. G series, very well renowned guitars. Korean made one. Again, would you go for a Japanese one? It doesn't really matter, does it? Korean made guitars are fantastic. I've had many in my time. I love Korean guitars. This looks absolutely brilliant. It now plays fine up and down the neck. The frets look amazing now they've been polished. They are level and polished. I guarantee this neck will play so sweet. So that is it. I'm sure Richard is going to be really happy with this one, as he always is. I know he respects my work, so like I say, one ready to go back. Another project done. Before I move on, I'll remind you that my website, fretfriend.co.uk, is there. There's not a lot on that. I was meant to be building a website this year, just haven't got round to it yet. So it's more or less a placeholder, but I do own that domain and I'll own it for 5 years. So you know, you can always contact me through that. Otherwise, contact me on facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. That's facebook.com/mg17. So another project finished. So as always, be good to each other, and I will see you soon.